Assalamu alaikum. First of all, I'll be starting a new section freshly. Look at this very carefully, observe very carefully. This is another important fact. So first, we'll be starting. So today, as the first lesson, I have to start 3 things. Respiratory cycle. Respiratory cycle. Then the second one is lung volumes. Lung volumes. And third one is lung capacity. First one, respiratory cycle. You should know what is meant by respiratory cycle. Then second one, you should know about the lung volume. Third one, you should know about the lung capacity. So first, if you take the respiratory cycle, it's just simple. Respiratory cycle is simple. You can keep this in mind. So, we breathe, right? While breathing, we are inhaling and exhaling. While breathing, we inhale and we exhale. So, inhalation and exhalation during one single breath. Inhalation and exhalation during one single breath is the respiratory cycle. So respiratory cycle is, for the now only I started, okay? We have to talk about 3 terms. Respiratory cycle, lung volumes and lung capacity. They are coming under 3 subtopics. So first, if we take the respiratory cycle is the inhalation and exhalation during one single breath. When we breathe, if we take it as one breathing, in one breathing there will be an inhalation and an exhalation. So that is said to be the respiratory cycle. I'll be telling it again. Respiratory cycle is inhalation and exhalation during one single breath. During a single breath. That is the respiratory cycle. You should know the definition of respiratory cycle. Sometimes in structured essays, they can ask, what is a respiratory cycle? So then you have to write inhalation and exhalation during a single breath is known as the respiratory cycle. Then, first of all, I'll be comparing what is lung volume and lung capacity. Then I'll be going in and I will be teaching them in detail. So first consider the other 2 terms are lung volume and lung capacity. Lung volume and lung capacity. So lung volume is something that we measure. That means there is an instrument called spirometer. There is an instrument called spirometer. By using that instrument, by using the spirometer, we used to measure how much of volume we inspire, how much of volume of air we exhale. By using that instrument, we measure. So that is coming under lung volume. The measuring amount is the lung volume. Lung capacity means we used to calculate. So there are 4 lung volumes. There are 4 lung volumes. First one is tidal volume. First one is tidal volume. First one is tidal volume. Second one is inspiratory reserve volume. There are 4 lung volumes. Okay, you have to remember the names. Tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, third one expiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, fourth one residual volume. There are 4 volumes. We'll be studying it in detail. Just know them. Tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, and residual volume. So tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume. We are measuring this using the spirometer. And what we do in lung capacity is we adapt them. There are 4 lung capacities. First one, let's say inspiratory capacity. The first lung capacity that we are going to discuss is inspiratory capacity. So if we take the inspiratory capacity, that is going to have 2 or more lung volumes. They are going to sum up. So if we take inspiratory capacity, that is the addition of tidal volume and inspiratory reserve volume. Then the next one, functional residual volume. There is a stuff called functional residual volume. Sorry, functional residual capacity, not volume. Functional residual capacity. That is the addition of tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume. Functional residual capacity, FVC. FRC, sorry. Functional residual capacity. That is tidal volume plus expiratory reserve volume. Then there is a stuff called vital capacity. Don't worry these names, you will be clear with this. Vital capacity. Vital capacity is addition of tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume and expiratory reserve volume. Then total lung capacity. There is other one, total lung capacity. So total lung capacity is the addition of all 4 lung volumes. Tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume plus expiratory reserve volume plus residual volume. So lung capacity we don't measure. We just sum up these lung volumes. You have to get an idea. Lung capacity is addition of 2 or more lung volumes. Lung volumes we are using spirometer and we measure. So you will be clear with these terms. First of all, you should understand the difference between lung volume and lung capacity. There are 4 lung volumes and there are 4 lung capacities. Tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, residual volume. If you take the lung capacity, there are 4: inspiratory capacity, functional residual capacity, vital capacity, then total lung capacity. The difference that you should understand. Now I am going into the concept. So to study the concept, first of all, I'll be talking about the lung volumes. Firstly, I'll be talking about the lung volumes. Lung volume. There are 4 lung volumes now, and I'll be explaining this using the graph. I'll be explaining this using the graph. So the graph is drawn. Y-axis is with volumes. X-axis is with time. They have drawn by measuring in the spirometer. So first of all, there is normal resting breathing, right? When we are at rest, we breathe. We inhale and exhale. When we are at rest, we inhale and exhale. So the volume of air that we inhale or exhale during the rest. When we are at rest, the amount of air that we inhale or exhale is known as the tidal volume. First of all, I'll be talking the tidal volume in the lung volume. The first lung volume that I'm going to talk is the tidal volume. When we are at rest, we are breathing. The normal breathing, not the deep breaths. The normal breathing that is taking place involuntarily. At that point, the volume of air that is inhaled or exhaled, that value is 500 milliliter. So let's say we can draw like this. Inhalation, exhalation. Then again, inhalation, exhalation. Inhalation, exhalation. While we are at rest, we inhale a certain amount of gas, and the same volume of gas is exhaled. So that amount is, we are calling as tidal volume. We call it as tidal volume. The value of tidal volume is 500 milliliters. The amount of the tidal volume is 500 milliliters. So what I wanted from you all is, just don't listen to this. Use rough papers and take notes. When you take notes, it will be going into your mind clearly. So take a rough paper, put lung volume. Now I told you, I'll be again telling this because many of the students, they carelessly do mistakes here because of these terms. What they does is, in the resource book, there is a graph. In the resource book, there is a graph, and they have given certain areas marked. And what we try to do is, without understanding, we are trying to memorize those. So we will be messing that up. So to prevent confusions only, I'm doing this. So take notes again, I'm telling you. So lung volume. I told you there are 4 lung volumes. There are 4 lung volumes. Tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, then residual volume. There are 4. Tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume, residual volume. So now I have taught you about the tidal volume. So when we draw a graph against volume and time, and this is easy. When we are at rest, we breathe. So the amount of air that is inhaled or the amount of air that is exhaled when we are at rest, that is the tidal volume. The amount of air that we inhale is 500 milliliters. Then the same amount of air is exhaled. Then that is also 500 milliliters. So we take this as a tidal volume. So the definition for tidal volume is the amount of air that we inhale. Or we can tell it as the amount of air that we exhale. So tidal volume is 500 milliliters. So we can tell it as like this. Then there is another one, okay, the graph. If you want, you can check this with your resource book. In the resource book, the graph is given. And I wanted to teach you now regarding the residual value. I wanted to teach you regarding the residual value. So, if you consider residual volume, there you can find a certain amount of gas in the lung. You can find certain amount of gas in the lung where we can't remove that amount of volume by any means. If we do anything, if we try to take that volume of air will not be coming out of the lung. There is a certain amount of gas that we call as residual volume. There is a certain amount of gas in the lung which is not being used in breathing, and we can't take that amount of air out. If we do anything, whatever it is, if we take the lungs and if we put it and if we try to shrink the lung and if we try to take also, that amount of air is not coming out. So that is known as the residual volume. That is known as the residual volume. So the amount of residual volume, RV is 1200 milliliters, 1.2 liters, 1200 milliliters. Now we have studied 2 terms, tidal volume, residual volume. Now I'm going to tell regarding the inspiratory reserve volume. Inspiratory reserve volume. Now look at this inspiratory reserve volume very carefully. So let's say there is a normal breathing again. Inhalation. Okay, this is inhalation. Then this is the normal inhalation, normal breathing. And I'm telling you to breathe more air in than the normal. You can take more air in. You are breathing normally and forcefully you can take air in. Do and see, you can take air in. Certain amount of air you can take in. Apart from the normal inhalation, forcefully you can take more air in. There's a certain amount. If you inhale and see, you can see. You can feel that. Inhale it and feel. There is certain amount of air taken in apart from this normal breathing. We are breathing normally. Apart from this tidal volume, there can be certain amount of extra gas we can take in. We can inhale. Do it and see. That is known as inspiratory reserve volume. That amount of gas that we can breathe more than the tidal volume. This amount is the inspiratory reserve volume. The air that we are taking in during deep breath. And after taking in, certain amount of air that we took is exhaled. Then the normal exhalation is occurring. Then this is a normal tidal exhalation. Normal tidal exhalation is occurring. After, I'm telling you to exhale more. You can exhale more. Take more air in, release it out. Then that is the tidal expiration. Then you can release more air. Do and see, you can release certain amount of air out. Apart from this normal breathing, we can send certain amount of air out. That we call as expiratory reserve volume. Expiratory reserve volume. Tidal volume. What is tidal volume? Tidal volume is during rest, the amount of air that is inhaled or the amount of air that is exhaled. That value is equal to 500 milliliters. Then I talked about the residual volume. I talked regarding residual volume. Then residual volume is the amount of air that is present in the lung which is not used and it can't be removed. That amount of air is 1200 milliliters. Then apart from the normal inhalation, the amount of air that we can inhale more, that is inspiratory reserve volume. This is taking place during deep breath. While taking a deep breath, we inhale more amount of air. And we exhale more amount of air. That we call as expiratory reserve volume. Now can I know, are you all clear with this? Are you all clear with these all four lung volumes? What I prefer from you, what I prefer from you all is, you can observe this graph in your resource book, right? Open the resource book and see, you can observe this graph. What I want from you all is, while studying, don't look at that graph and don't go to memorize that. While studying, you have to study in this way. I'll send you the recording of this lung volume and lung capacity. So what you should do is, you have to look at this several times and you have to do what I'm doing. You have to write by yourself. You know all 4 lung volumes. Then you have to write by yourself. Don't draw a graph, keep it and try to memorize. Draw it and try to get the concept. Then you will never forget. When we were learning, we didn't learn like this. They gave us the graph and they asked us to memorize. So it's difficult. In exams, when you are in total stress, there is no way. Sometimes it's forgetting. Sometimes there can be calculations regarding the small calculations. Small algebras are being used in lung capacities. So at that moment, the equations will be forgotten. So what I prefer from you all is do what I am doing and study while studying. Tidal volume means normal. Resting condition, the normal inhalation and exhalation. Then draw it by yourself, the wave. You can draw it. No worries, you can draw. Then inspiratory reserve volume means you have to extend it and take that extra amount of volume that we inhale and the extra amount of air that we exhale apart from the tidal volume. That is expiratory reserve volume. This is inspiratory reserve volume. Don't think much about this. Very easy. Then residual volume is the amount of air that is not involved in breathing. They are present in the lung and they cannot be removed by any means. So we call it as the residual volume. So now I am going to teach the lung capacities. I'm going to teach the lung capacities. If you take the lung capacity, first one, inspiratory capacity. I'm writing the short ones, okay? Then functional residual capacity. Then vital capacity. Then total lung capacity. Okay, these are the 4. Inspiratory capacity, functional residual capacity, then vital capacity, total lung capacity. So it's easy for you to remember the total lung capacity. Total lung capacity is all 4 volumes. They are going to be the total lung capacity. Tidal volume, inspiratory reserve volume, expiratory reserve volume plus residual volume. It's going to be the total lung capacity. So we can write IRV plus tidal volume plus ERV plus RV. So they will be giving you 3 values and they can be questioning you 1 value. So what you should do is you have to substitute and you have to do the formula questions that we are doing in mathematics. Just basic algebra. They will be giving 4 volumes and they will be questioning you about 1 value. So if it is total lung capacity, inspiratory reserve volume, tidal volume, expiratory reserve volume plus residual volume, all 4 volumes, sum up. Then vital capacity. Vital capacity is, you know the meaning of vital. Vital is important. So the volumes that are involving only to breathe. The volumes that are important to breathe. Residual volume is not involved, I told you it is not removed by any means. So the residual volume will not be involving. Vital capacity means the volumes that are important in breathing. So these three will be summing up. Tidal volume, IRV and ERV. Residual volume is not involved in the vital capacity. That means for breathing, residual volume is not involved. So tidal volume plus IRV plus ERV. Are you clear with this? Until this, are you clear? Are you all clear until this?
Yes, miss.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to talk about inspiratory capacity. Inspiratory capacity means the maximum amount of air that we can inhale. The maximum amount of air that we can inhale is the tidal volume and inspiratory reserve volume. That is the maximum amount of air that we can inhale, right? While we are at rest, the amount that we inhale and the amount that we inhale during the deep breath. Both values, if we sum up only, that is giving us the maximum amount that we can inhale. So that is tidal volume plus IRV. Okay, are you clear with this? Then functional residual capacity. Functional residual capacity means the volumes of air that is present in the lung after tidal expiration. So look at this. After tidal expiration, inhalation, exhalation. After tidal exhalation, the amount of air present in the lung. After tidal exhalation, the amount of air that is present in the lung. We always don't forcefully exhale, right? So ERV and residual volume is staying in the lung. After a tidal exhalation, the amount of air that is present in the lung is the functional residual capacity. So that is ERV plus RV. Are you clear with this? Everyone, I'll be telling regarding this again. Hamna, are you clear with this?
Yes, miss.
Ifada? Then, Raiha, are you clear? Did you understand? Okay. Safia, did you understand? Safia? Shimra? Zamzam, did you understand? Shimra and Zamzam.
Yeah, miss. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Again, I'll be telling. Again, I'll be talking regarding this. So tidal volume is during rest, the amount of gas that we inhale or the amount of gas that we exhale. So that is 500 milliliters. Then residual volume, the amount of gas that is not involved in breathing, that is present within the lungs. We cannot remove that air. That is the residual volume. Then that is 1200 milliliters. Then the air that we inhale forcefully, the amount of air that we can inhale forcefully is the IRV. Then the amount of air that we can exhale forcefully is the ERV. Then lung capacities are due to the lung volumes. When we sum up these lung volumes, we get the lung capacity. So if you check the total lung capacity, the total lung capacity is addition of all four lung volumes. So I forgot to tell the value of this. This is 6000 milliliters. Total lung capacity is 6000 milliliters. You have to memorize this volume, amount 500, this 1200 you have to keep in mind. Then this 6000 milliliters you have to keep in mind. Then if you consider vital capacity is the volumes that are involved for breathing. So that is tidal volume, IRV and ERV. So that is different from men and women. This volume is different. For women, it is 3100 milliliters, and for men it is 4800 milliliters. It differs. The vital capacity of women is 3100, for men is 4800. Then inspiratory capacity is the maximum amount of air that we can inhale. That is tidal volume plus inspiratory reserve volume. Functional residual capacity is the amount of air present in the lung after tidal expiration. That is ERV plus RV. I hope you are clear with this. The next one that I have to teach is anatomical dead space. There is a stuff called anatomical dead space. Anatomical dead space. So anatomical dead space is like this. Here the respiratory tubes and stuffs are there. This is the line. So the amount of air that we take in during the tidal volume, we call it as tidal volume, no? So that amount is 500 milliliters, right? The amount of air that we inhale is 500 milliliters. But all these 500 milliliters of air is not involved in the alveoli and in the lungs. to gaseous exchange. All these 500 milliliters of air is not involved in the gaseous exchange. Only 350 milliliters. Only 350 milliliters of air that we inhale is involved for gaseous exchange. The remaining 150 milliliters of air, the remaining 150 milliliters of air, it is present in the tubes. It is present in the tubes. You can find them in the tubes. That means in the bronchi, bronchioles, and in the trachea and all, you can find that 500 milliliters of air is coming. Then 350 milliliters of that air is coming to the lung for gaseous exchange. And 150 milliliters of air is present in these tubes, respiratory tract. So anatomical dead space is the amount of air, the air that is present in the respiratory tract without involving in the gaseous exchange. That is the anatomical dead space. So the volume of anatomical dead space is 150 milliliters. That is 150 milliliters. Are you all clear with this, everyone? Okay, Alhamdulillah. So if you take, this is the respiratory tract, it will be trachea, then bronchi, then bronchioles will be there, and the alveoli will be there here. So this is the lung. This is the lung. And during normal inhalation, we take in certain amount of gases, no? So that volume is 500 milliliters. Now we all know. We learned regarding tidal volume. So that is 500 milliliters, the amount of air that we take in. But all these 500 milliliters of air is not involved for gaseous exchange. It is not coming to the lungs. Only 350 milliliters of air. Only 350 milliliters of air is coming to the lung for gaseous exchange. Only 350 milliliters is coming. If you subtract 350 from 500, it will be 150 milliliters. This 150 milliliters of air is present in the tubes. In the respiratory tubes you can find in the bronchi, trachea and stuff. So the amount of air that is not involved in gaseous exchange is 150 milliliters. And this is known as the anatomical dead space. So if we are asking the volume of anatomical dead space, you have to write 150 milliliters. Simple. Now copy this down. After completing, raise your hands. Now copy this down. The respiratory capacities. Be careful with these terms. They can give you this kind of sentences in the statement questions. Respiratory capacities always consist of 2 or more lung volumes. That is correct. Always it is consisting of 2 or more lung volumes. While writing the total lung capacity, sum up with the TLC is equals to PV IRV plus ERV. Now what I wanted you to do is can you draw the graph by yourself? Now you have got the knowledge. Now you can apply and drop it by yourself and you can mark. Don't want it to mark, like you don't want to mark in the same way. Whatever the way that is clear for you, you mark it. And if possible, someone take a screenshot of this and upload in the group, right? In the answer group, if possible, if someone is using in the phone, please take a screenshot and upload it in the group. After drawing, let me know, raise your hands. I wanted to give you a few questions. Shimra, did you finish writing? Shimra? Okay. Now write down these questions. I'll be reading. Write down these questions right soon. Okay. MCQs. All MCQs. First one. First MCQ I'm reading. Right. Okay. A person normally inhales. A person normally inhales and exhales. A person normally inhales and exhales 500 milliliters of air. 500 milliliters of air. This is the comma, first answer, ERV, first answer, ERV, expiratory reserve volume, first answer, expiratory reserve volume, second answer, tidal volume, second answer, tidal volume, third answer, residual volume, third answer, residual volume, fourth answer, total lung capacity, fourth answer, total lung capacity, fifth one, inspiratory reserve volume, fifth one, inspiratory reserve volume, first answer, expiratory reserve volume, second answer, tidal volume, third one, residual volume, fourth answer, total lung capacity, then fifth one, inspiratory reserve volume. Did you all write the question? First question, that is the question. Then second one, second question, the amount of air that a person, the amount of air that a person normally cannot exhale, that a person normally cannot exhale at all is about 1200 milliliters. This is the comma, first answer, vital capacity, first answer, vital capacity, second answer, inspiratory reserve volume, second answer, inspiratory reserve volume, third answer, expiratory reserve volume, third answer, expiratory reserve volume, fourth one, residual volume, fourth one, residual volume, fifth one, total lung capacity, fifth one, total lung capacity. Then third question, After a person inhales normally, after a person inhales normally and then forces himself to inhale some more air. After a person inhales normally and then forces himself to inhale some more air, this is called first one, tidal volume. First one, tidal volume. Second one, residual volume. Second one, residual volume. Third one, inspiratory reserve volume. Third one, inspiratory reserve volume. Fourth one, expiratory reserve volume. Fourth one, expiratory reserve volume. Fifth one, functional residual capacity. Functional residual capacity. Then fourth question, the amount of air that you can force out, the amount of air that you can force out after a normal breath out. The amount of air that you can force out after a normal breath out is, first one, inspiratory capacity. Second one, functional residual capacity. Third one, inspiratory reserve volume. Fourth one, expiratory reserve volume. Fifth one, total lung capacity. Then the other question, the maximum air.
What is the fourth answer?
Fourth answer.
Yes.
Shall I read the fourth question again? The amount of air that you can force out, after a normal breath out. First one, inspiratory capacity. Second one, functional residual capacity. Third one, inspiratory reserve volume. Fourth one, expiratory reserve volume. Fifth one, total lung capacity. Fifth one, total lung capacity. Then the next question. The maximum air that you can get in, the maximum air that you can get in and out of your lungs. The maximum air that you can get in and out of your lungs. The maximum air that you can get in and out of your lungs. First answer, total lung capacity. Total lung capacity. Vital capacity. Total lung capacity. Vital capacity. Third one, inspiratory capacity. Third one, inspiratory capacity. Fourth one, functional residual capacity. Functional residual capacity. Fifth one, inspiratory reserve value. Fifth one, inspiratory reserve value. The other question, the maximum volume of air, the maximum volume of air that a man can get in, the maximum volume of air that a man can get in and out of the lungs. The maximum volume of air that a man can get in and out of the lungs. First one, 6,000 milliliters. 6,000 milliliters. Second one, 3,100 milliliters. 3,100 milliliters. Third one, 4,800 milliliters. 4,800 milliliters. Then 500 milliliters. 500 milliliters. Last one, 3,600 milliliters. The answer is 3,600 milliliter. Last answer. Then the other question. The maximum amount of air. The maximum amount of air the lungs can hold. The maximum amount of air the lungs can hold. First one, 6,000 milliliters. 6,000 milliliter. Second one, 4,800 milliliters. Third one, 3,100 milliliters. Fourth one, 500 milliliters. Fifth one, 8,000 milliliters. 8,000 milliliters. Then the other question. The maximum volume of air. the maximum volume of air that a woman can, the maximum volume of air that a woman can get in and out of the lungs. The maximum volume of air that a woman can get in and out of the lungs. First one, 6,000 milliliters. 6,000 milliliters. Second one, 4,800 milliliters. Third one, 3,100 milliliters. 3,100 milliliters. Fourth one, 500 milliliters. 500 milliliters. And fifth one, 8,000 milliliters. Then the last question. For respiratory volumes. For respiratory volumes of a resting person. For respiratory volumes of a resting person are as follows. For respiratory volumes of a resting person are as follows. Inspiratory reserve volume. Inspiratory reserve volume is equals to 2,500 milliliters. Inspiratory reserve volume is equals to 2,500 milliliters. Then under that, right, tidal volume is equals to 450 milliliters. Tidal volume is equals to 450 milliliters. Then under that, right, expiratory reserve volume. Expiratory reserve volume is equals to 1,450 milliliters. Expiratory reserve volume is equals to 1,450 milliliters. Then under that, right, residual volume is equals to 1,100 milliliters. Residual volume is equals to 1,100 milliliters. Then under that, write as a sentence, a question. Inspiratory capacity, comma, inspiratory capacity, comma, functional residual capacity and vital capacity. Inspiratory capacity, comma, functional residual capacity and vital capacity of this person. Vital capacity of this person in correct sequence are inspiratory capacity, functional residual capacity and vital capacity of this person in correct sequence are. First answer 2,950 milliliters, 2,950 milliliters, comma, 2,550 milliliters, 2,550 milliliters, and 4,400 milliliters, 4,400 milliliters. Second answer, 1,900 milliliters, 1,900 milliliters, comma, 1,550 milliliters, 1,550 milliliters, 5,050 milliliters, 5,050 milliliters. Third answer, 2,950 milliliters, 2,950 milliliters, comma, 1,900 milliliters, 1,900 milliliters, and 4,400 milliliters. 2,950, 1,900, 4,400. Fourth answer, 2,550 milliliters, 2,550 milliliters, comma, 3,950 milliliters, 3,950 milliliters, and 5,050 milliliters. Fifth answer, 2,950 milliliters, 2,950 milliliters, comma, 2,550 milliliters, 2,550 milliliters, and 5,500 milliliters, 5,500 milliliters. So did you all complete writing the question? Every question without missing, did you write?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Now what I wanted you to do is do these questions. If you can answer these questions, then you are clear with the concept. Alone, if you can answer this question, you are clear with the concept of this respiratory cycle, then lung volume and lung capacity. Please write down the answer and send me the answer scripts to the answer group. Can you do it now?
Okay.
Do the question and send me. Shall I end the meeting? Will you be sending the questions right after doing this? Stay and do it now, and can you send me the answers? In the
Okay.
answer group, post it. I will end the meeting today. The other section that I wanted to teach is homeostatic control. So no time to complete that. So on inshallah on Saturdays we'll complete the homeostatic control of breathing. Then tomorrow there will be a Google form regarding the respiratory system and digestive system, what we learned so far. So please attend the question. That's it. On time. I'll be posting at 12 p.m. on time. Do it within 25 minutes. Then I'm ending the meeting. Assalamu alaikum. Do the question now and send, okay? Now itself
Yeah.
complete and post it.